So we teach this class once a month and we do record it. So if you ever need to go back and reference things, you most certainly can. But usually with this class, what we like to focus on is pretending that we have buyers that just got an offer accepted. Because usually newer agents are more buyer heavy at the beginning of their career than seller or listing heavy. But
Mhm.
you'll see too over time, like as you get more transactions under your belt, the process usually is somewhat the same. There might just be some different nuances based on the specific transaction. But today we're going to pretend that we have an accepted offer and we're working with buyers. So what the training today will cover is much more of like a high level overview as to some of the steps that you should take. And it'll give you an idea as to the resources that are available to you to help you get from an accepted offer through to closing day. But what this isn't a training on is zip forms or DocuSign or Command. So we do have separate training opportunities and not pre-recorded, but past trainings on these topics that are on the YouTube channel. So if you need to get yourself familiarized with zip forms, DocuSign, Command, we got you covered. It's just not in this class. So what we will cover is a resource that we've created in the form of a checklist to help get you from accepted offer to closing. And then we'll also just share with you some suggestions and tips as to how you can ensure that you're keeping tracks of dates and deadlines and how you're keeping track of communication. So um, a little bit of a high level overview, but you'll see as we get into it how it follows the format of this checklist that we've created. So when we do get an accepted offer, an AO, there's a lot of people that can be involved in a transaction. Everyone from you to your buyers, your clients. There's the listing agent that is involved. If your buyer is getting a loan, there's going to be a lender. There's going to be title companies, and sometimes there's two title companies, one that is going to work with the seller and one that might work with the buyer and the lender. There's going to be home inspectors. There might be transaction coordinators, an appraiser. If the property is like a rental property, there might be a tenant in place. And my favorite too is you don't realize how many family members sometimes come out of the woodwork when you start working with clients. So there's a lot of people that are involved, but it's really you as the buyer's agent to help quarterback and lead your team of folks. And not everybody that is listed here on the slide is someone that you're going to have to be talking with, but it's just a reminder too. If you think there's a lot of people that you need to be keeping updated, there are a lot of people, but you can do it and we'll help get you there. So in terms of like, what do I need from a technology perspective to get from accepted offer to closing? So you're going to continue to use zip forms to draft any types of amendments or notices along the transaction. You're also going to need Command because you'll be uploading all of your executed documents into Command for compliance review. And then a lot of people just use whatever Google has to offer in terms of email, right? Email is going to be your number one way of communicating. But a lot of people just use their calendar to keep track of dates and deadlines, but also using the Drive, the Google Drive, as their electronic filing cabinet to save documents and whatnot. So nothing too overly complicated or anything that you would have to like go out of your way to get. I'll show you what I'm talking about as it pertains to the checklist. So this is kind of our primary resource that we'll go over today. But then I'll also share too, there's a website called timeanddate.com that can be really handy to help you identify what your dates and deadlines are going to be based on the contract that you're executing. So the first step that I would always take if I have an accepted offer is go right to our KW Realty MKE website and get the checklist downloaded onto your computer or printed out. So I'm going to go there right now. I guess I already have it. So when you're at KW Realty MKE, make sure you're in the agent hub. Being in the agent hub gives you more access to information and resources than just the general public. But we come on down to a section called New Associate Resources, and you'll see here, there's a section called Listing and Buyer Checklists. If I click on View, it'll bring up a PDF. And in this PDF, there's 3 pages, and it's built based on the type of, if you're a listing or a buyer. So if you had a new listing, this is the checklist that you would follow to get that new listing up and running onto MLS. If you had a new listing and you got an accepted offer on that listing, this is the checklist that you would use to help guide you through that transaction. But today, the one that we're going to focus on is this accepted offer checklist when it comes to working with buyers. So you'll see over the next few slides, like I'll be referencing this, but this is a document that I see a lot of agents print out, put it in their folder, take notes on it, use it as truly as a checklist. So it can be a very handy resource, especially for a new agent when you're not quite sure what you should be doing. At least I thought it was pretty helpful. So if I go back in here, we've got that accepted offer. We've got our checklist printed. Like, what do we do now? And in reality, the first 24 hours is really critical to get your own ducks in a row and to get all of your information together, because you're going to be sharing that information with various parties in the transaction. So I always say the first 24 hours is mission critical. Communication is really important at this time, and so is getting organized. So what I always do is once I get an accepted offer, I spend just a few minutes reviewing all my documents, getting everything either saved on my computer or printed out. And I start looking at, again, like the deadlines and the things that I've put in my offer, because that's going to help me understand what needs to happen and by when. So if we look at the first or the top section of that checklist, the first thing, if you don't already have your buyer's contact information into Command, you need to add them into Command as a contact. In addition to adding them as a contact, you have to start a new opportunity within Command. And again, this isn't Command training, but we have lots of resources to help show you what this is, what this means, and why you need it. But when you create a new opportunity, think of it as like a new project or a new transaction within Command. That is going to be the place where you're going to be uploading all of the documents that have been signed and executed for compliance review. So the first ones that we would upload into Command for review are your buyer agency agreement, or if they didn't sign buyer agency, they should have signed a broker disclosure to customer form. And then there's also some KW disclosures that are unique just for KW. They don't have to go to the listing agent, but these are ones that we're going to want to get uploaded into Command. Then the next set of documents here are all of the documents that make up that accepted offer. So if there was a counteroffer that was used and accepted as part of the original offer, we're going to want to upload that. We're going to want to upload the offer to purchase. So that's like the big document, the main document. Addendum A we'll want to upload. Your buyers will be signing a condition report if it's provided, acknowledging that a condition report was in fact given to them for review. If the house was built before 1978, you're going to upload an addendum S that indicates whether or not your buyers had either waived or want a lead paint inspection. There are some additional documents that are pertinent to condominium purchases, so we aren't going to talk about those, but there's a couple extra documents that you would need there. And then as things get executed, or as milestones and deadlines get met with earnest money deposits and home inspection reports, all of those things will also be uploaded as they are received and uploaded into Command for review. So I like to use Command as really like my filing cabinet. Everything is held on for, I think, 2 years after a transaction closes, but it's a great place where all of your documents are going to be stored in one specific section. So it can be very handy, but also not only is it handy, but it's required. You must upload all of this information into Command within 7 days of getting the offer accepted. And that little reminder too is right here at the top of that checklist. Submit for review on Command within 7 days. So again, first 24 hours, we're doing a lot of document organization. We're getting those things uploaded into Command. We're going to start getting them reviewed. This is also a chance for you to start communicating with other people in the transaction. So what I like to do is make sure you send to your buyers the final copies or the final signed copies of all the offer documents, right? Because now that you're under contract, they won't have that actual version of the document, the signed by both parties version, unless you send it to them. So make sure you send it to them. And this is also the time that you can send that same information, all of the executed documents, over to the lender, the buyer's lender, because they're going to want to know what the details are in terms of price, inclusions, dates and deadlines, and all those things. On the topic of dates and deadlines, this is also within, the first 24 hours of getting your offer accepted. This is where you're going to want to start to figure out, okay, what are my actual deadlines, right? Like in an offer, maybe we put a home inspection is due within 10 days. Maybe the appraisal contingency is due within 18 days. Financing or the loan commitment is due within 21 days. We take those number of days and now we translate it into an actual date or a deadline. And I'll show you how, like I do it in a second. But once I've got those dates figured out, I actually email those dates over to the listing agent because we want to make sure that we're working towards the same deadlines. Sometimes there's, the listing agent and the buyer's agent might have different deadlines. You want to make sure from the get-go that you're using the same dates and that everybody understands when things are due. I also send those deadlines over to the buyer. Usually I send it over at the same time that I send all of the offer documents. Excuse me. And I also send the dates and deadlines over to the lender as well, because those are going to be things that are very important for them to understand, because they're going to be on the hook to also get some of these things ready to go by the deadlines that we've specified. So once we've sent all the documents to the buyers and to the lender, once we've confirmed our dates with the listing agent and then sent our dates and deadlines to the buyer and to the lender, then there's also a step that you have to take into Command as it pertains to your commission. So there's a whole separate training on how to submit a commission request in Command, but usually within those first 24 hours again of getting an accepted offer, it's best practice to try to get all of the documents uploaded, all of your dates figured out, and that commission submission in Command, all within that first 24 hours. So, like, what are the types of things that I'm using, right, to communicate some of these details? First and foremost, I'm sending a lot of emails, right? I'm sending emails to the buyers, to the lenders, to the listing agent. And over time, you're going to realize too, you're going to be sending a lot of the same types of emails over and over again. So really leveraging templates where you can copy and paste them and then change any specifics as it pertains to that transaction. But like, I'll show you it in a second. Like the examples of templates that I have are like, here's your offer to purchase. And I send an email called like accepted offer. Now what? Important next steps. I send my key dates and deadlines. And then I also use templates, email templates for moving into closing week. So if I show you that, oops. Here's an example of a template that I would send, like offer accepted, now what? So I'll modify who this is going to, but just indicate, congratulations again on your accepted offer. Here are the things that we need to go. Like, here are our dates and deadlines. Number one, we got to get earnest money in. Number two, we got to update the lender. Number three, we have to order the home inspection. So over time, you'll start to understand too, just the types of things that you're going to be sending out, but it's really easy just to create email templates. And there's a ton of different examples. You can get them on command. You don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel. But then I also mentioned, in addition to, using email templates, I use this website called timeanddate.com to help me figure out, okay, I've got all these contingencies and I've got all these number of days included in my offer. What does that actually translate to into a date? So you can count on a calendar if you want, but I just go to timeanddate.com and then I scroll down to date calculator. So let's say we got an accepted offer yesterday. And if you remember from getting your license, and as you'll realize and quickly learn too, when you get an accepted offer, all your dates and deadlines start from the binding acceptance or when the offer was accepted. So let's say we got our offer accepted yesterday. That's going to be our start date. Yesterday was the 24th. Okay. Now, say our first deadline is getting earnest money submitted in 4 days. So all dates and deadlines start from the date that the offer was accepted. If maybe earnest money was due in 4 days, I'm just going to plug in 4 days, hit calculate new date. And that's telling me that our earnest money is due on Friday, February 28th. So I'm going to write that down on my piece of paper or on my checklist as deadline number 1. Then maybe your next deadline is your home inspection contingency, and maybe that was due in 12 days. So I just changed the number of days in that field there, hit calculate new date. And this is telling me that my home inspection contingency is now due on Saturday, March 8th. So again, this website just kind of takes some of the guessing and takes some of the manually counting on a piece of paper. You could choose to use this however you want, but I just find this super easy. I just calculate my dates and deadlines, write them down, and I'm done. Now, again, once I've got those dates and deadlines, make sure you send them to your client so they're aware. And then also make sure that you send them to the lender and to the listing agent too, because you want to make sure everybody is on the same page and working from the same dates. Just mention that, right? Confirm everything so everybody's on the same page. I also like to tell my buyers too, once they get the accepted offer, usually in the first couple days, they're going to get a lot of information sent to them. I'm going to be sending them information. More than likely, if they're getting a loan, the lender is going to be sending them information. So I just let them know that over the next 24 to 48 hours, you're going to be getting emails, you're going to be getting phone calls, and you're going to have questions. By all means, let's make sure we address those questions as soon as we can. Let's get on the phone. I just want to make sure that my buyers know that if something is confusing or if they're not quite sure what's happening next, the phone lines are open. We should always be having conversations to make sure that they're up to speed on what needs to happen. I also, in those first 24 hours, right, like you're sending the dates and deadlines, you're uploading the documents into command. Usually one of the first things that your buyers have to do is get that earnest money ready and sent over either through trust funds, or maybe they're dropping off an earnest money check. But what you need to make sure your buyers are aware of is that that money will be deposited immediately. So whatever bank account they're using to fund that earnest money deposit, they need to know that it will be deposited and money will be taken out of the account, held in a trust account, and then used at the time of closing. So make sure if they need to move money around and get it into an account, this is their time to do it. Now I put like days 2 through 25-ish, right? Like, because there's going to be different deadlines that are unique to every offer. you just have to make sure that you're keeping track of those things. But these are some of the things that happen, again, starting around day 2. If you haven't already given your buyers a list of home inspectors to use, and if they have a home inspection contingency within their offer, that needs to be scheduled as soon as possible. You want to give yourself as much time as you can. So getting the home inspection scheduled immediately and earlier in that time frame is only going to help you and your clients out. You don't want to be scrambling and trying to get everything inspected and negotiated with only like a day left. Once you do get that home inspection scheduled, please make sure you communicate the date and time with the listing agent so they know that you're going to need access again to the house. But it's also just best practice to make sure that they're up to speed on when everything is going to be scheduled. The second item here, send the home inspection report. So once you do get the copy of the home inspection report, you send it along to the listing agent. You don't have to keep that to yourself. If anything, you want both parties to have the same information, especially when it might pertain to negotiation. So it's okay to send the home inspection report over to the listing agent. Just do not send the home inspection report to the lender. Once you have that home inspection report, that is going to be one of those documents that you're going to upload into Command. So again, you're just keeping everything all in one spot in Command as like an easy, nice reference. Also during this time, you're going to want to make sure that you're staying in contact with your buyer's lender. You want to make sure that they're staying on the timeline for getting an appraisal ordered. You're going to want to make sure that everything is moving along as it pertains to the loan commitment. So just making sure that you're staying in contact with them and you understand where they are in the process. Many lenders will actually be very proactive and send communications to you and to the buyer as to where they are in the process, but it's up to you to also maintain dates and deadlines. And if you aren't quite sure where people are at in what step of the process, it's definitely okay to reach out and check in. And then something too, like once you've got all the deadlines and contingencies satisfied, and maybe you finally got that loan commitment letter from the lender, you send it on over to the listing agent. If there's any kind of repair work that might be done to the home, it's really important that you also get that documentation that talks about the invoice was paid, if there were any lien waivers, if there were any permits that were pulled to get the work done. It's important that you get that documentation as well. And once you do get it, you have to send it on over to the lender. And you also send it over to the title company because they will use that as part of their closing process too. So lots of documents. You're kind of the central point of contact for everybody. So just make sure that you are staying on top of those things. And once you do get them, make sure you send them to the right people, but then you're also uploading them into Command as well. So you've got them for future reference. Note again, you send the home inspection report to the listing agent, but do not send the home inspection report to the lender. Never do that. If you are negotiating repairs, or maybe changes to a closing date, or maybe you have to change dates and deadlines, you're going to be using either an amendment, which is signed by both parties, or a notice, which is usually signed just by the party initiating the communication. Whatever it is that you're sending, an amendment or a notice, make sure you upload those documents as well into Command. You want to make sure that not only do you have the documents from the original accepted offer, but that you're also doing your due diligence. And if there's anything else that gets signed along the way, make sure you upload those into Command. Another tip, so if you are scheduling the home inspection, so say your buyers have reached out to an inspector and they've got a date ready and a time locked, you can also then set up that home inspection in Align Showings or Showing Time, as you would a normal showing request. So it puts it on the electronic calendar and it just notifies the seller as well as the listing agent. So it's something that a lot of good agents do, and I would highly recommend it. And then during this or this time between days 2 and maybe a week before closing, the title commitment is going to be emailed to you, and it's going to be emailed to your buyers as well. So make sure that they see that. If they have questions, you can certainly try to answer them, but usually what I do is any specific title questions, I have my buyers reach out directly to the title company to ensure that they're getting the most accurate information in a timely manner. So just make sure that you see that coming through and that you're reviewing it as well. And then that week or so before closing, what you want to do is schedule your final walkthrough. So usually, per the offer to purchase, buyers are able to have that final walkthrough within 3 days of closing. So make sure you actually schedule that. You ask the listing agent, this is when we want to come in. Make sure that you're aware as to if the sellers are still going to be in the house, like where are they going to be in the moving process, but you're going to want to formally schedule that walkthrough. But then also you're going to want to go back into Command and just make sure that everything that you've uploaded and submitted for compliance review has been approved. In order for you to get paid at closing or after closing, all of your documents do have to be submitted into Command and they do have to be approved before we can process your commission check. So it's just best practice, a few days before closing, just make sure you've got everything locked and loaded and good to go with your compliance review. And then this is also a time too, in terms of like a tip, make sure that you are starting to put together your marketing plan or your communication plan to stay in contact with your buyers. I don't remember what the stat is, but it's atrocious. It's something like, 70 or 75% of people don't hear from their agent after closing. So don't be that agent. Make sure you stay in contact. I check in a couple days after move-in day. I check in 2 weeks after to see how things are going. This is your opportunity to really just put a plan in place to ensure that you're staying in flow and top of mind with your clients after closing day. So make sure you do that. Don't be a one and done and never talk to these people again. And then once you get to closing day, when you go to closing, you'll get 2 documents from the title company. The first will be the closing statement. So that has all of the numbers and it has the signatures from the seller and the signatures from the buyer on it. You will get a copy of that, and then you'll also get a commission check at closing. You need to turn both in to a KW front desk. So if the North Shore office is the closest one, drop it off at North Shore. Or maybe you're driving by and you're going to be close to New Berlin. You can drop it off at any one of our offices. From there, if you don't drop it off at North Shore and you drop it off at one of the other offices, we will actually courier those documents to North Shore, and North Shore is the location where we process all of your commission checks. So all you have to do is just make sure at closing, get that paper copy of the closing statement, get that commission check, turn it in. If you aren't able to attend closing, the title company will actually send the closing statement and commission check to KW on your behalf. It just might take a few extra days to process and for your commission to hit into your account. But that's usually all you have to do on closing day. Just make sure you show up, you get those documents, and then you turn them into an office. And that's it. I mean, that's a lot, but that's it at a very high level. Do you have any initial questions or things that you maybe want to just ask, or maybe you thought of as I was going through stuff?
No initial questions.
Okay.
I am still in the process of just learning and understanding everything that Command has to offer. So
Mm-hmm.
this training was very helpful,
Good.
definitely value added. I've been taking notes along the way. So yeah, awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. What I'll do after this, I'll send you a PDF of these slides,
Oh, perfect.
but then I'll also send you the PDF of the checklist. And then I'll
Nice.
send you a link to one of our command and zip form trainings too, in the event maybe you haven't seen it or you just need it for a point of reference. I'll send that to you too, because I think those are helpful.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. I look forward to meeting you in person on Thursday.
Yes, I will see you Thursday.
All right, sounds good. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.